Thank you for joining us today. I'm Nancy Hernandez, head of the Hispanic Collaborative here in Milwaukee, aimed to improve outcomes for Latinos to move Milwaukee into a top 10 city on the Hispanic Wellbeing Index. Today, we wanted to do a census workforce briefing for you. And this is important for us as we look at the data set, the newest data set out by the Census Bureau that was released in August of this year. A key factor for economic prosperity is a growing working age population. And when we think about growing working age population, that has become synonymous with Latino as we think about the statistics or surrounding our state and our local areas. Today, what we're going to do is I'm going to give you just a quick glimpse at the 7-county region, and then we will look quickly at national trends. I will share a little bit about what the Hispanic Collaborative is doing, and then give you some ideas, opportunities for investment into some things that are strengthening our Latino workforce being done by our community-based organizations locally as a way for you to invest. So let's jump in. If we first look at the state of Wisconsin, the visual shows you a little bit about the density of the population. Clearly, we have the most density in the southeast region of Wisconsin, with a pocket up in the Green Bay area and also in the La Crosse area. The 2020, the recent census update was able to show us the difference of what's happened in the past decade, and that's what we're going to look at today. So the state of Wisconsin had a positive population net change. You can see that we increased by about 200,000 inhabitants in the state of Wisconsin. If we look at the top 3 population categories over that decade, Caucasian is still the highest population in Wisconsin. Wisconsin being only about 78% Caucasian. That number changed over the decade. In 2010, it was 83% Caucasian. So it continues to get more diverse, but certainly is not one of the top states for diversity quite yet. If you look at the changes within the Caucasian, Hispanic, and African American populations, you can see that the Caucasian population in the state actually declined by over 100,000 individuals. That was picked up plus a little bit more by the Hispanic population, and the African American population, which is the 3rd largest population segment in the state, also increased by about 15,000 individuals. So you can begin, this is the first of a series of pictures you're going to see as we delve into the 7 counties that make up the M7 region of what's happening in here and what is powering the growth in our areas. So the first county that we'll delve into is Milwaukee County. Milwaukee County of the M7 region was the only county that actually experienced a population decline over between 2010 and 2020. It lost a little over 8,000 individuals in its population number. As you again begin to look at what's happening, we again see a large decline in the Caucasian population in Milwaukee County, by a little over 58,000 loss in that area, and about half of that being picked up by the Hispanic population, 26,000. We also lost in the African American population a small number by 8,000. Asian is another number. It doesn't make the top 3 population segments here, but that is also another segment that is experiencing positive growth. And that also is going to contribute to the what is affecting those 2 large negative numbers here. However, we still had a net population decline in Milwaukee County over this time frame. Going into Kenosha, the first of one of the or the second of one of the counties that we're going to look at. Kenosha, as the other 6 counties or 5 counties, experienced a population increase, a little over 2,000. However, if you look at the numbers in there, the decline came again from the Caucasian population, close to 8,000. Close to 5,000 of the increase was due to the Hispanic population. So you can begin to see what these counties would look like across our region if not for the population growth in the Latino community. Ozaukee County saw also a net population change of a little over 5,000. This was the only county in our M7 region that actually had positive population growth amongst its Caucasian population, 721. Hispanic community, however, is growing also in this county. It had a net population increase of over 1,000. And when we begin to look at that third category, that changed over time. In 2010, it was the Asian population that was the third largest. That has been displaced now by a category called 2 or more races, or really, as we looked at multiracial individuals, it's another category across the United States that is growing very quickly, and that is the largest, the third largest population segment now that we see in Ozaukee County. In Racine County, this also experienced a net population increase of a little over 2,000. However, you see a 10,000 individual loss out of the Caucasian population, again buoyed by very large increase in the Hispanic population, over 5,300, and a smaller increase in the African American population of 1,300. So very similar to what we're seeing across all of the counties in our M7 region and really across the state of Wisconsin. Washington County, net population increase of 4,800, a small loss in the Caucasian population, and a increase in the Latino population of 1,400, a little over 1,400. This county also experienced a change in what their top third population segment was. It also moved from the Asian population in 2010 to that multiracial 2 or more races category that we are now reporting in the census. If we look at Walworth County, this is another population increase of over 4,000, and you can see where the Hispanic change of over 2,000 or close to 2,000 helped to buoy that. We also had changes in Walworth County, and we are also looking at multiracial as that next third largest category. And to round us out, we look at Waukesha County. Waukesha County experienced a large net population change of 17,000 individuals. And if we, again, however, look at where those changes came from, over 5,000 was a loss in the Caucasian population. Hispanics buoyed it with an additional 5,700 in population growth. The Asian population in this county has been the third largest segment, and it also saw a double-digit increase and added almost 5,000 individuals to the population growth. So across these 7 counties and the state of Wisconsin, just as a reminder, while many of them experienced net population small net population growth, both in the state and in 6 out of the 7 counties. We did see a loss in our white communities across the board, other than a small increase in Ozaukee County. And we did see consistently the Hispanic population contributing very strongly to the net population growth, or combating some of that population decline in those other category segments. We wanted to give you now just a peek at the national snapshot, just so you can understand what's happening from a population perspective, as well in the national headlines. We wanted to share this chart, just gives us a quick overview of overall numbers. So as we look at the Latino population, we are over 60 million individuals in the United States right now. The Mexican community is still the largest percentage within those populations broken out under Latino. This is also true for us here in Wisconsin and in the Milwaukee region. The next most populous population segment is our African American community. They make up about 14% of the population, and it goes down from there. One of the reasons that we like this chart, I wanted to share it with you. This was given to us from a data perspective by Dr. Enrique Figueroa, who used to be with UWM here. He also they also call out an estimate for the undocumented population, which is numbers over 10 million by this estimate, as well as DACA individuals, or those youth who have been here, were not born here, but are covered under DACA and are in our workforce today. So let's look at a national snapshot. This is data that we pulled from the Latino Donor Collaborative. We recently had Ana Valdez share a wonderful set of information with us that gave us a great snapshot of what's happening across the U.S., as well as the Brookings Institute was a partner on some of the data that you're going to see in this segment. So Latinos are the largest minority in the U.S. and in the state of Wisconsin, and certainly we can see how they are driving population growth. So the top chart shares a fertility rate, which is an interesting number to look at, but you can see that U.S. Latinos are the highest fertility rate listed in there, and what's required to maintain population is what Latinos are at right now at 2.1. So their strength is buoying all of those other numbers. You can see that the national fertility rate is under that 2.1 number at 1.76. Nationally, Latinos account for 80% of the growth in the American workforce. And here in the Milwaukee MSA, they have accounted for 100% of the population growth and the job growth, as we can see by some of those numbers. The chart below just shows an estimate of where they expect those numbers to be by 2025 as the Hispanic population approaches 20% of the overall population of the United States around that 2025 timeframe. And you can also see multiple races in that chart. You can see its growth, as we also saw that when we looked at our 7 counties and where were some of those changes occurring in our population. This piece I wanted to share with you. I am a Gen Xer, and so when I grew up, my cohort was about 18% Hispanic, 18.8% Hispanic, as you can see there. Gen Z is our cohort that we currently have in our schools and in our college systems and starting to hit the workforce. And you can see that their cohort is 25% Latino. This comes from the fact that the Latino population is on average about 10 years younger than the remainder of the population in the United States. Nationally, 31.6% of the Latino population is under the age of 18. And if we look just here in Milwaukee County, the percentage of our Latino population that is under 18 jumps to 36.7% from our last set of census numbers. So the growth trends that you're going to see here, both the percentage of Latinos in our younger cohorts and in your workforce, as well as the growth numbers that you see in what's buoying population growth, is going to continue when we think about the number of Latinos that are yet under 18. Looking from a workforce perspective, one of the things that we wanted to do is we think about population numbers. When we think about workforce, one of the things that as a way to measure is looking at GDP. So here we wanted to look at if Latinos in the U.S. were an independent country, U.S. Latino GDP would be tied for 7th largest in the world. That is the left-hand bar that you see where U.S. Latinos are tied with France. By 2024, and I think the Latino Donor Collaborative might be looking at an earlier release or a announcement of this number, but the U.S. Latinos are on track to be the 6th largest by 2024 if we think about the GDP of just U.S. Latinos. And then looking at, if we start looking at our workforce and understand, we have been dealing with the aging of our workforce as our baby boomers retire and get into non-working age categories. And if you remember from the beginning, the growth in the working age population is really tied to overall economic prosperity. So as we look at that dynamic, we think about what's powering the ability for the United States to support our growing number of retirees. The statistics really show that it's the U.S. Latino workforce that is giving us the ability to support those retirees. So this chart shows a variety of different countries, but it really shows the ratio of retirees to 100 numbers of working age population. So the fourth set of bars is the United States, and it shows that by 2050, we will be moving from what is now about a 21 retirees per 100 workers to 34 retirees, a little over 34 retirees per 100 workers. Without the Latino population, that number would jump, which is the column, the data set that you see within the red bars. So without the Latino population, that number would jump to 47.7 retirees per 100 workers. So if we think that we are feeling strains now in that 21% number flowing into 34% number, that would definitely put much more tremendous stress on the U.S. and our Hispanic population is giving us a better ability to deal with that. I wanted to share, the last portion that I wanted to share is how does this relate to our work at the Hispanic Collaborative and how what we are doing is leading into the overall workforce picture. So just as a reminder, the Hispanic Collaborative focuses on the Hispanic Well-Being Index, which has 20 different variables covering different aspects of Latino life. And we compare our outcomes here in Milwaukee to the outcomes of the 50 top metros across the United States. So initially, we have done 2 iterations of the index with the newest data sets. And when we initially looked at our ranking, we were 39th. We currently are 44th out of 50 metros based on our last data set. The rankings on the left help you understand who is at the top of the totem pole right now in terms of outcomes for Latinos. So we wanted to give you a snapshot of some things that are important to us here from a workforce perspective. It is not sufficient enough for us to have numbers. We really, as we think about population growth and growth in working age population, just as in any case, we want to ensure that that working population is in a position to contribute to our economy the best position that they can be, with the right education level, the right training, the right preparation in order to help power growth. So this gives us a snapshot of where Milwaukee sits against other top metros. Where we currently sit today as we think about the Milwaukee MSA. This shows employment. So each of these dials, if you think about it, will represent a segment of about 10 rankings. The number then, or the dial going all the way to the left in the red will be number 50, and the number, if the dial goes all the way to the right, in the top, the end of the green category, that would be number 1. So this shares with you where we are in terms of our Latino population, in terms of employment. We break this out into 2 different categories. We look at younger employment, 20 to 24, and then we also look at that broader sector of 25 to 54 to be able to understand what's happening in there. What we did see between the 2 changes in rankings was a large drop in male employment, especially in that 20 to 24 age group. The other thing that I wanted to share with you is we think about what's possible. Well, the numbers that are at the end of those green dials are actually what the number 1 cities in those categories are achieving today. So if you believe, like I do, that our Latino community here and Milwaukee itself is quite possible of reaching those top levels, then we certainly could close that gap. And what this tells us is, if we close the gap alone on that 20 to 24 category, we could have an additional 1,400 Latinos in the workforce today. And overall, this represents an opportunity, about 7,000 diverse workers added into our workforce today as we work on closing these gaps. If we think about income, and this is related to how well prepared our community is, are they achieving, are they in in-demand jobs? What does the occupations then of our population look like? Here we can see one of the challenges in our community and where we're currently sitting. This will, many of where we sit today in terms of household income, of how we compare with the 50 top metros, or poverty rates, or things like the number of households receiving SNAP benefits, you can see that we rank pretty low here compared to our peer set. One of the areas that Hispanic Collaborative is very much focused on is in this upskilling and reskilling of the workforce. And we want to improve the outcomes for about 10,000 Latino households as one of our priorities, to begin to move these needles to the right. As we look at those previous needles, we were very strong in female employment, and then start dialing in on the losses on male employment and address those issues. The last piece that we want to show you are other reflections of the strength of our population. Closing the gap on top performing cities, if we look at some of these elements, home ownership, business own rate, and teen birth rate, would produce the following. So as we look at being able to close the gap on top cities for home ownership, for instance, this would mean another 10,000 Latino owner-occupied homes in our region. Certainly, we have nowhere to go but up, as we sit at number 50 for the number of Latino-owned businesses, and then 50 less teen births in our area. So what really the local data shows is that, again, while Milwaukee is powered by the Latino demographic, there is a lot of opportunity in closing what's possible and attainable as we look at what other top cities, Latino cities, are achieving. So we wanted to leave you as we close out our half hour today. We wanted to leave you with some opportunities for you to think about as you continue to understand the demographics around the Latino population and how that can help your organizations and your workforce. We recently just closed out of Hispanic Heritage Month, which runs from September 15th through October 15th. And our Hispanic Heritage Month committee really wanted to add this element, this briefing at the end of the month as a reminder of how we need to be thinking about and investing in the Latino demographic year round. So some areas that we wanted to put in front of you right away. Hispanic Professionals of Greater Milwaukee is launching a mentoring opportunity where they are connecting Latino professionals with Latino students in our area, both in the college level as well, I think, in the upper levels of the K-12 space. We're listing their URL here. Please connect with them. If you have ERGs of Latino professionals, we would love to get them trained and give them the opportunity to join into a mentoring program to connect them with students. They are looking at this program that they're putting together is very digestible on both sides, and they will be looking at the right format and the right opportunities to connect those students and professionals and begin to strengthen the pipeline and mentorship that's occurring today. The other area that we wanted to share with you is Mexican Fiesta, who has given over, I want to say, $1.5 million in scholarships in our community for higher education. The yearly does an educational forum. It is really a way for a lot of students and families to learn about the college process and get them started on the right foot about thinking what's next for their high school students. It is another opportunity for you to connect and invest. And I've also listed their website on the slide as well. And Hispanic Collaborative, we are currently working on a workforce database to, one, give us insight as to underemployment in our community, especially amongst our college educated, but two, create a ready database to understand, to more easily connect opportunities for these individuals who are ready to look at upskilling and reskilling. So we would love to continue to, for you to continue to think about investing in these three areas and these three immediate pieces that are happening, and or reach out. So we are at the close of our half hour together. I want to thank you for being with us and listening to this briefing. We will make this deck available both on the MMAC website as well as the Hispanic Collaborative website. And while we don't have any time allocated to take questions from the group today, we encourage you to reach out to us via email, either my email or Andrea Barutia's email on our team, and email us any questions that you have, and we will be sure to get back to you. Thank you so much and have a great day.